Okay, I know I've been away for a bit, so here's an explanation that may or may not be true. What should I make? A little game? Do a jam? Devlog? Oi, Fennec! The clubs are open, mate! The clubs? Oh yeah, that's the stuff. Damn, it's 9 AM. Hey, wake up! Get out of my house! Please would be nice. Please, get the f out. Do you even remember our names? No? Time to do game dev. Okay, so Spacespy was hosting a jam and I wanted to participate, so I made a game in a few days. The jam ran for a week, but due to prior commitments I only spent about 5 days to make the game. The theme was everything breaks, and what I wanted to do was something fun and arcade-like, sort of like a game that could work on the mobile and be pretty casual. I came up with a few ideas. An idea for a room where earthquakes would happen and platforms would shatter and you'd have to navigate the room quickly. A game where you use a rope to swing onto breaking platforms. I settled on a game similar to Doodle Jump, but with mouse controls and maybe some extra mechanics. I then needed a theme, so I opened my head and saw what came out. Maybe I should see a doctor. So I came up with this hell theme, and I reused this OC I created recently as the main character, a demonic woman who is trying to escape hell. And so I got the idea to make each level a circle of hell, inspired by Dante's Inferno. And so you would try to fly and jump up onto these floating platforms, climbing through each circle of hell and slowly getting to heaven. I did something a bit different for this project. Instead of prototyping, I made artwork first and then implemented the objects into the game. It made sense because I was hell-bent on this theme. So I tried to have these platforms fall down and give a little boost when jumped on, like in Doodle Jump, but I really struggled implementing the boost in a nice way and having collisions that didn't block the player. I was kind of fed up with this gameplay anyway, so after one day I decided to scrap the gameplay and try something else. I went to sleep and thought about other things that break. I really like games like Breakout and Arkanoid, and I've made a Breakout clone in the past, so breaking blocks with projectiles sounded like a good idea that would fit the theme. So I decided to make the game a shooter with falling blocks and enemies, and the player would be equipped with a gun with an appropriate cooldown. I originally thought to represent the 9 circles of hell I'd just have like a scrolling background with different images to convey the theme of the circle, but how would the level scale? How can I make the difficulty progress? What if the game was too easy? So instead of random falling platforms, I just decided to draw up a whole vertical map, and I could either have the camera and the player move upwards or the whole map move downwards. Don't ask why I did the latter, I'm stupid. Basically everything had to have a rigid body and a script that made it move downwards. The next thing was to make the map not an open wide space but an actual maze, like there had to be a path that the player had to navigate. This made it more challenging and made it possible to get caught on the map and swept downwards, and I added a collider which killed the player if they sunk below off screen. The blocks hurt the player if the player collides into them, and they break with this glass particle effect to act like glass shattering. I made my first enemy something that would move left and right and hurt the player if the player collides into it. I went with flying demon wolves because I really like putting wolves into my games. And I implemented the health system using hearts. Each obstacle or enemy would do half a heart of damage to the player. I needed one more enemy, so I settled on a projectile enemy. These little devils would throw spears at fixed intervals, and these spears must be dodged and can't be shot. Okay, so with the main mechanics added, I got on to making the levels, as in the other 8 circles of hell, and my dumb ass thought it was a good idea to make a tile set themed around each circle of hell, and that's what I did. Now, this jam didn't specify whether not safe for work was allowed or not, and I asked Space for clarification and he said go ham, so I did on the 2nd circle of hell. And yeah, it did take a fair amount of time to make these tile sets, but honestly it was worth it because I got to practice more game focused pixel art and working with tile sets, and my game really had a unique cool feel about it. Okay, things got a bit unconventional. Yes, my tile set for the second circle of hell was a bit naughty. Maybe more than a bit. It was originally going to be a bit tamer, but then I thought about the storyline, and I really wanted to add a beginning cutscene to give the story context. The main character is called Dominica Mane, and she has died but gets rejected out of heaven. But how did she die? I thought of a naughty joke that I had to add, and once that was in, I kind of went all in. Strong language and some interesting decorations on the second circle of hell. And you might be thinking, Fennec, you made a not safe for work game? How could you? You dared to put swearing and sex in your game? It's a game, and it has appropriate warning labels for mature content, and I know it's controversial, but it's part of my vision. As indie developers, we have something special. Yeah, the AAA studios can have millions allocated to a budget and unlimited manpower, but they have to be conventional. Think about what for most will sell the best. But we indie developers don't need to do that. We can take risks, make things outside the mainstream, outside the expected norm. And as of late, the term indie seems to have lost all meaning. It's been overused, applied to teams of dozens, maybe even hundreds of people, and I feel that people aren't taking as many risks as they used to. Seems every indie game now is a survival crafting open world game. Not that there's anything wrong with making one, but I just wonder, where's the controversy gone? Where are the line crossers gone? I'm not asking people to make pornographic games, although there's nothing wrong with that either. But make games that are unconventional. Don't be afraid to tackle subjects that aren't often discussed, because as far as AAA goes, the most controversial they'd get is a sex scene that gives off r/dead bedrooms energy. This is a good time to talk about Fennec Jam, the game jam I'm hosting on itch.io, which starts on the 23rd of August and runs for a week. I know Bracky's Jam is at the same time, but Fennec Jam is allowing not safe for work content, so if you want to make that train spotting inspired platformer you always dreamed of, join Fennec Jam now. Link is in the description. So I designed each level, introducing new enemies and obstacles as it went, and increasing difficulty with the level layout and number of enemies on the map. I have to admit, level design is my weakest skill, so I often felt like levels were either too boring or too difficult. Since this is a game for a game jam, I need it to be easy enough to encourage the player to complete it, so I added health pickups after each circle of hell to make it easier for the player to maintain a good level of health. At this point, I really needed a name for this game, and I was thinking about play on the words and the phrase bullet hell, but I mean, this wasn't a bullet hell. The pun would still make sense though. And then I started thinking about other stuff with like bullets, hell, and heaven, and I was like, yo, I got it. I'll name it Speeding Bullet to Heaven after the best Kid Cudi album.
I'm feeling a 0 on this record. A big, fat goose egg.
And I added the beginning cutscene with some nice portrait art. Finally, it was time for sound and music. I asked my pal Crispin to make menu music and gameplay music, while I decided to make the sound effects. And yep, I made them, and I didn't use SFXR. I just put on some sad music in the middle of the night, weeped into a microphone, then took whatever sounds I made that could be useful, messed around in Audacity to make sound effects. Once the music had come through, I put the game together and submitted just before my own deadline. So, did I make a naughty game? Yeah. Did I regret it? Hell no. This turned out to be one of my best games yet. Certainly art direction wise, and the narrative was pretty good too. The game was well received with some really helpful feedback and suggestions for a future update, but most importantly, this game taught me not to be afraid of living on the edge a little. Rules are made to be broken, even if it means breaking everything. Thanks for watching. If you want to play the game and you're okay with mature content, click the link in the description. Follow my Twitter, join the Discord, join the Fennec Jam, like and subscribe so I can afford to buy the Seinfeld Lego set. Anyway, thank you, and I'll see you next time.